my team rocks. We have, freaking PhDs it's not that the technical aspect doesn't matter. It does. We are a deep tech company. We must know what we are doing, right? Like, we are not playing around. We are actually building something that is extremely valuable and that we take extremely seriously. So creating a team of folks that have that hunger and that know that they have a chance to prove to the world that, some of the best technologies can come from them. It's for me one of the things I'm the most proud of. And I think it's also extremely important. Technology, at the end of the day, it's also a representation of the people who build it.
That was Sarah Lucena, the founder and CEO of Mappa, a behavioral intelligence platform that uses voice AI to decode human behavior in under 60 seconds. Today, we get into what Sarah and her team have learned through years of research and working with hundreds of customers to help leaders hire the right people the first time. Welcome back to Build Mode. I'm your host, Isabel Johannesson, and this is the season all about building your team. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Isabel.
I'm so glad to have you on Build Mode. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, I can't wait to dig into this topic because I think there's so much we can talk about with behavioral analysis and how it applies to building a team into so many other areas. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, can you introduce yourself and tell us what Mappa does?
So my name is Sarah Lucena. I'm the founder and CEO at Mappa. Mappa is a behavioral intelligence company that analyzes voice to tag that back to behavior. What we do with that is actually helping people and companies to connect better, helping organizations to never make a bad hire ever again. But in the process of building that, we realized that human connections are in the center of every single person's experience. And by realizing that, we were able to expand the reach of our technology to multiple and different industries in which, connecting to people are in the core of making that transaction or that relationship successful. We've been working with startups, SMBs, but also big corporations and helping those connections to work every time.
Yes, and I am fascinated by all the different use cases that you guys are plugging Mappa into, and we're definitely going to dive into that. But let's take a quick step back, too. So I remember in your pitch from Battlefield last year, actually. It's 2026. Oh, my gosh. Well, it is crazy. But I remember you saying that, you as a child wanted to be a happy adult, and that is sort of what led you to founding Mappa. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, I actually remember being a little kid, and I've always been extremely expressive. I've loved people from a very early age, I still do, and continue to experience life through other humans. And I remember having that, feeling that life was better when, you were doing things that made you excited and connected with people that wanted to take the best out of you. As I grew and as I entered what we all call adulthood, I saw myself kind of like becoming some of, those frustrated adults I remember seeing when I was a kid, right? Like, and I remember to myself, thinking why I'm putting myself in that position, why I'm choosing to be frustrated and unhappy and with my job and with the, people that surround me and the choices I've been making. That was essentially the biggest shift in my mentality. It was remembering who I used to be and the promise I made to myself in terms of how I wanted to experiment life that, allowed me to take the leap to create Mappa.
It's interesting because, in today's AI age, there's, I think, so much focus on, almost getting away from the human, right? And getting more into the technology and what can we replace? What can we, make more efficient? And I love that your origin story is all about being connected to humans. Of course, you're building an AI company, but it's different than most of the AI we're seeing today. You really are using the AI to better understand humans. So tell me, what is happening when Mappa listens to a person for 30 seconds or a minute, whatever it is? What is it listening for?
Oh, and I love what you brought, because that's kind of like our core essence, right? Like, we think as AI or technology as a tool that should exist to enhance human experiences and human life. And our technology, what it does, it's allowing people not only to connect better because they know who they are connecting with, but also know themselves better. So they are able to, evolve as humans and be intentional about, the person they want to be. What we do at this point is that we extract voice biomarkers. It's thousands and thousands of voice biomarkers, things like pitch, jitter, tremor, the frequency of your speech, the frequency of your breathing, and like that, the linguistic aspects of your discourse as well. So let's say the density of verbs or nouns that you choose to use. Every single biomarker, it's interpreted through a neural network. This is proprietary technology, which is something important to us, right? Like Mappa, it's not another GPT wrapper. We are essentially focused on building the most well-curated behavioral data set to ever exist in the market. And the reason why we are able to do so is because we not only interpret those signals back to behavior through, a neural network, but then we are able to create those behavioral profiles later through an LLM that tie back to real life outcomes. That's the real mode, right? It's not only about the data set, which is already at this point extremely comprehensive, and we've been building this for almost 3 years now, and accumulating data throughout the process. But it's really tied to real life outcomes, which makes this data set impossible to replicate. It's not something we bought through surveys, or it's not, data sets that were publicly existing. We were able to create those behavioral profiles through the whole hiring process that our clients went through, and understanding, the relationship even after that specific moment of deciding to hire someone.
Well, yeah, I mean, that data set really is honestly fascinating, and I'm sure that there are going to be many use cases that data can be valuable going forward as well. I'm curious though, why you guys ended up choosing voice analysis and not other modalities like text or video or.
Yeah, that's a great question, because we actually tried different modalities, right? Like, it's not that we jump into voice from the get-go. We definitely wanted to understand human behavior from the get-go. That was our moat coming into the market. I had the experience of building, big marketing teams in my past job experience. And I rebuilt that team, I'd say like over 5 times. And I was so frustrated because I was hiring for what I thought were the right skills, right? Like for when people went to universities and the companies that they have worked at before, and if they had similar, experiences to what they were chosen to be doing at that company, and all kind of like had the same, storyline. It starts well, but it ends up not being what we were expecting. It looked at great on paper, but didn't really work in real life. So I saw myself rebuilding that team, I'd say like almost every semester. And when I left that company to start Mappa, I was not only frustrated with, that challenge of really connecting with people that were able to make me a better version of myself, but also frustrated with me, with myself, with the human I was becoming, because I was not open to really experiencing the challenges of becoming my better version. Really understanding what makes each person unique was the core value of our company, making sure that none of our clients were ever making a bad hire ever again. And we started with traditional data. We did that for a little while. We saw that it was not traditional data. I mean, like public data sets, right? Like social media behavior or consumer behavior, or everything we could put our hands on that were already there, we were including on our models. And then we saw, okay, this is surface level. Anyone can do this, and it doesn't really change the reality that it is still a gamble. So we thought, okay, what is intrinsically unchangeable? Biomarkers, right? Like what are the biomarkers that we can put our hands on, and how can we actually get there? So we started with video first. We did some experiments around video that included audio, not to the depth that we have today, but included audio. We saw that it actually dropped our serverness levels, and it was super curious because we were like, this cannot be real, right? Like, people communicate a lot through, their expressions and the way they gesticulate and all the non-verbal communication skills. But one professor that were helping us with data labeling and kind of like reviewing the whole process, it's a psychiatrist. And he told me something that was super curious. He was like, it actually makes sense because people, when they know they are being seen, they act as they want to be perceived. So that really impacts how, it's not the same, right? Like when you record a voice note to a friend or when you have to jump on a FaceTime.
Or when you have a podcast that has a video, or when you're just in your pajamas at home talking to a microphone, It's a little different.
Exactly. It's a completely different deal, right? Like, so in people actually being aware of how they were being perceived, we were losing a lot of their, you know, authenticity throughout that process. So we said, okay, voice might be the way to go. Let's start diving deeper into it, and it actually showed up to be, I'd say, like the best window into people's minds and their way of working, collaborating. Voice actually ties back to our initial socialization resources. We learn how to speak before we learn how to read or how to write, right? Like it's our way of trying to communicate even when we can only cry. It's through that motion. So it brings a lot of how we've been socialized and what the world looks like for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, but it also makes so much sense. You know what I mean? I remember like hearing this idea for the first time and being like, "Wow, that just it clicks." And I think clearly it's resonating with your customers because you have over 150 customers, 5 million ARR. I mean, you guys are absolutely crushing it. And I think, I mean, one of the reasons must be because people agree with this idea, right? That the voice is the most authentic sort of version of a person you're going to get. And there are absolutely things in people's tones and the way that they are, the amount of verbs they use. Like you said, do I refer to myself in the first person or the third person? That help you contextualize where a person is coming from. Let's walk through some of those biomarkers and how you tie that to the end result. So you have maybe like you sit down with your customers or they map out what the role is, and how do you sort of put two and two together?
Yeah. So with our customers, we do a very quick onboarding call. That's a recorded call in which we are analyzing their behavioral profile as well, not only the talent's behavioral profile. One thing that I think it's weird in the hiring industry thus far is that folks in the industry really focused on mapping candidates for their technical skills or what they believe to be behavior, but never the company, right? Like, and you take what the companies say they are and go with that. And, at the end of the day, it's different what we, might say our culture is to what it really is and what our expectations truly are. So for us to be able to map our clients also allow us to create true matching. So we do that quick onboarding. We extract their voice samples. We analyze that voice sample, create the company's behavioral profile, which is based on the company's stakeholders and hiring managers. And then we go to the talent side and put them through our vetting process. That vetting process also includes technical vetting, which is an interesting way to extract different contexts of voice samples. We don't analyze a single context that can be biased. So we take different contexts, which means like analyzing voice on different moments, days, and periods of time. So let's say you start our vetting process today, it's going to put you through an automated process that goes on iMessage or WhatsApp. You're going to interchange a couple of audio samples. That concludes the first step. The second step, by tomorrow, somebody will be calling you to conduct a technical interview. The next day, so we tend to take multiple contexts to stabilize the data sample and make sure that we are analyzing you for who you truly are and not just based on a single moment. Once we do that, we then match based on compatibility. So you brought up a couple of signals, which is important. Not try to hyper complicate this, right? But from the thousands and thousands of signals, our neural network, what it does, it's locating the ones that are the most relevant for that profile. What were the dominant traits for this profile? And then our matching algorithm, what it does, it's thinking of how compatible those two behavioral profiles might be. Not similar, but compatible, right? Like, because sometimes you don't want two hyper A types together. They might clash instead of doing great work. And that goes from, really mapping the signals. So you brought up, like the linguistic ones. You have things like the amount of verbs you choose to use that ties back to, are you more action driven, or are you somebody that needs to build conviction before acting? The amount of, times you refer to yourself versus how many times you refer to other people. It helps us understand if you're somebody that needs, control, or if you are a team player, or if even the frequency of your speech. It allows us to understand if you are thinking as you speak, or if you are somebody that will care about assertiveness, for example. And then that LLM will interpret based on the density of those signals, which ones are the most relevant for that profile to create the behavioral profile.
What about, I mean, you're from Brazil, right? So what about people, I mean, what languages can you do this in? What if somebody is needing to interview in not their native language? Does it take that into account?
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the main reasons why we, at this point, mostly work on the Americas. We haven't started doing business in Europe and other continents just yet. It's definitely on the plans. We are already training data sets on those continents and specific countries. But there are several voice biomarkers that are impacted based on accents and cultural nuances. And those are things that we deeply take into consideration. We are a no Latino team, which made this much important for us. We know how you can sometimes be not only misinterpreted, but even judged, because, English is not your mother language or first language. And it's challenging, not only expressing yourself, but even selling into a market that is sometimes so culturally different, right? Like, so even I go through our US based models, my loudness, my pitch, it's interpreted as not being completely secured of what I'm saying, instead of like high levels of confidence, which is interpreted through our Latino lens. So those are the things that we take into consideration in training those data sets, making sure that the nuances, even within the US, like different demographics have different ways of communicating. And we tag that data to help our LLM then interpreter based on that understanding.
Yeah, because I remember us talking about the 60% of the hires that Mappa, suggests are women, are LGBTQ plus, are immigrants. So there are so many different profiles and different backgrounds and cultures to take into consideration. I guess this leads me to ask, some questions about bias and responsibility, really, because the candidates that are going to be screened through Mappa, I imagine that they're already pre-qualified, that they have the basic requirements. And how many candidates are we talking that get screened through Mappa? Are the whole 200 that apply, or is it just the top 3 that are making it to the end?
Yeah, so we definitely only present to our clients that shortlist, which is 3 candidates, but it comes from a very long tail of candidates that go through our process. And again, we are looking for compatibility, right? Like, so you might be extremely qualified, but maybe it's not compatible with that team dynamics. So that means that it's not the best fit for this company specifically, but we're gonna have you as an option for a different organization. So that's kind of like how we think about it. But you previously also mentioned a very interesting point, which is the diversity of talents that our companies end up hiring. And the reason why that happens, it's not only because our long tail is so big and we have that, bigger reach across the Americas for finding the best talent wherever they are, but also because we help our clients to start optimizing for the right signals. We all have bias and things we lean towards, right? Like, and when we are hiring or when we are, making new friends or finding a date, we are always optimizing and reading those signals and trying to find, okay, what resonates with me. What we've seen in hiring is that folks tend to resonate towards the same specific signals that we have already been able, as a category, I mean, like the hiring category, have already been able to prove there are extremely limited, right? Like they cannot allow you to really understand if something will work, which is like where this person went to college, or do I know someone that they know, right? Like, so what we do, it's taking that guess out of the process and providing our clients with better signals for them to consider when they are making that hire. And those better signals are more related to who they are connecting with and how well this person will do in that environment than, um, superficial things like, are they female or male, right? Like, so that end up opening doors for folks that are traditionally overseen, just because the traditional signals we optimize for are not as equally present on those demographics.
Hmm. Very interesting. So, I mean, it sounds like this is a way to help sort of even the playing field in many ways, right? But I mean, on the flip side of that, one could argue that people who are, I mean, for example, I'm a trained singer, right? So I am very aware of my pitch and my tone more than sort of your average person, right? People who might have softer skills, who are good at public speaking, who are good at interviewing, right? Those kind of people, would they do better on Mappa than someone who is maybe very introverted or very shy and like has kind of mumbles and speaks really quietly, how would that affect them on Mappa?
Not really. Like, again, we don't treat trades as good or bad. We treat them as neutral. It's more about like how compatible they will be in that specific environment and working with these other personalities and behaviors. The behavior you portray and the way you are is about, it's perfect for environments that are ready to absorb and even enhance the characteristics that are already in there. So you want to become the best version of what you already is, and that environment has to be able to support that and push you forward. And maybe, I don't know, in a more um, closed off environment, let's say we put you on an extremely traditional bank. No, else if you would be, as happy, or if your characteristics and your behavior and the way you portray yourself would be as well received. So that's what we optimize for at Mappa. People are amazing. I think like there is nothing as human potential. I think there is nothing more incredible than human beings allowing themselves to be what they are in their core, in their essence. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to become. Mappa for me, it's also an outlet for my personal journey. It's in a space in which I can experiment the person that I can be and that I want to become, and that therefore our culture, it's very compatible to what I am. But then I've already have experiences in places in which the way I am is not very well received, and it's not that I'm bad or they are bad. It's just that when we are not for each other.
Yeah. But I love this concept that it's not about being good or bad. It's understanding which roles you actually fit into, which companies you fit into. I would imagine there are certain types of companies, even types of roles where it is more about the technical background maybe than even the culture fit, right? If I'm having, open heart surgery, I don't really care if we get along as long as you save my life. You know what I mean? So, like high level. But with that, I want to kind of pivot into the idea that you have now brought many different industries and many different types of companies into the Mappa universe with your API. And I would love for you to just dive into some of these different use cases that you're now using Mappa for.
For sure. So even with the example you just gave, you might not want to get along with your heart surgery doctor, but you definitely want to make sure that they are in the right state of mind to actually be conducting that surgery, right? Like, so understanding biomarkers and voice gives us that ability. Also allow us to understand not only, how this person will work, act, or think in the future, but also in the present, in the right now. And that's definitely something we are interested in. Our API, as you perfectly put it, help us to empower multiple and different industries. We have started doing that on the industry we know the most of, which is hiring. Started working with bigger traditional firms that have a long trajectory of placing amazing candidates in in bigger companies across the US, but essentially helping them be more assertive at that process, making sure that, their job is done well the first time, so they don't have to redo it or even, replace candidates down the line just because it wasn't the right fit. We also work with several VC firms in the US, helping them to, spot the true outliers, not only the best founders or the most committed founders, but the ones that can help the most. What we have found out with VCs is that it's literally, and I saw that in one of the episodes from last season, right? Like, capital is a commodity, but the relationships are the real asset, right? Like, and finding those founders that, the fund can actually commit to, and that the relationship amongst partner and founder is strong enough so they can build together, is how we help our partners continue to making their bets, and now expanding towards other industries. That next industry we are tapping into and have already clients consuming our API ad is finance and credit. So we see that there is a huge opportunity, especially for underbanked folks and folks that don't have a lot of credit history, to have access to better financial products based on, their behavioral profile and tendencies, and even have reduced charges. We think about insurance, right? Like, how can you pay for the right policy because it's tied to your behavior, not to traditional data as like you just lived another year and now you have to pay double the price, right? Like, I don't know, like, my mom, it's much older than I am, but I'm guessing at this point her health is better than mine. So, you know what I mean?
I mean, they would even tie your insurance to what grades you had as a high school student, and I always thought that was insane. But now we're talking about, pretty serious consequences of the outcome that Mappa would give the company, right? Like, someone is going to pay less or more to an insurance company based on what Mappa would suggest, which is interesting because I think that gives so much credibility to all of your industries, right? Like, the more extreme the use cases you guys are getting into, the more that seem like it could be, it could be more subjective or becoming so much more concrete. What I am curious on, though, is it almost seems like there can be sort of a coaching element to Mappa, as well as maybe like a personal reflection element instead of, or in addition to the matchmaking. Is that something you're developing for your current use cases?
It's definitely where we see it going for, I think, like, for two main reasons. The first one is that we definitely want to have data on our users and customers throughout their lives and their journey and their experience that help us to provide better results and to better understand them in the different in multiple moments of their journey. But also because we deeply and definitely believe that there is no self-improvement or growth without self-knowledge. And that's where everything comes from, right? Like, really understanding who you are allows you to also better understand other human beings. And providing that or giving that tool to people, it actually unlocks so much potential in terms of those relationships, and even in terms of what compatibility looks like, right? Like, we sometimes tend to jump into an understanding what it is compatibility, but I think, like, compatibility can also be read as in willingness to understand, right? Like, as in willingness to actually grow as the other grows as well, right? Like, and potentially finding that middle ground. So that's what we see the product being able to do. And the API itself, I'd love for any ambitious founder out there that sees, an opportunity or a potential use case to actually jump right into it and use it on that use case, right? Like, and see what we can create from it. Because we definitely have our use cases and our go-to markets, and we see, how we can reduce fraud and risk and increase the success levels of connections. But there is so many things yet to be created. And I think that's the part that gets us the most excited. And I don't think that we are going to be the ones creating it. I actually don't. I think, like, the more diverse it is, that the hands that, come on board to do something around it, the more interesting the products will be as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I am so excited for the possibilities that can come from using Mappa as an API. I mean, it's honestly fascinating. And I mean, just so brilliant strategically what you guys are doing. So I cannot wait to see what the next couple of years, how it unfolds for you. Okay, well, since we're talking about use cases, I do just want to kind of ask, when you were raising your round, did you use Mappa to evaluate your investors?
Yes. But like in my defense, because we don't, of course, we don't have access to any of our users' behavioral reports unless they share that with us, right? Like, and a lot of our users actually share their reports on social media and so on and so forth. So we end up seeing a couple of things. But with investors specifically, they end up sharing with me. So that was the fun part because they, in a way, authorized me to read their behavioral reports. And they were super interested also in giving us feedback, right? Like, because that allow us to continue to train the models. The interesting thing is that we were able to actually really focused on compatibility as we raised our round, which end up bringing more and more interesting people to the table. What I'm trying to say with that is that there is this kind of like butterfly effect that we've seen happen, not only with us, but also our customers, that when you are rightly connected, when you find your people in a way, and then the folks that will take the best of you, that also attracts more people that not to get to, high level, but like that vibrates in the same, energy as you do and that, have the same interests and the same view of the world. And that can also disagree with you in a bunch of different things. Don't get me wrong. Like me and my investors and our partners, we have a lot of disagreements, but I think like never on the core reason why we are building this, right? Like never on the deeper understanding of who we are and the commitment we have with what we are building. So I guess that's an interesting fact. The moment we started to optimize import compatibility on our round, that's when our round also accelerated, because the folks that were most compatible, and that's one thing, right? Like you don't want an yes from every investor. You actually want the no's, because the no's are probably people that don't really resonate with what you were building, and that's okay. Like what you were building, it's not necessarily important for everybody.
Rejection is just redirection.
It's just redirection. I love that phrase because that's true. It's just kind of like showing a better path, and when you are intentional about it, it has that effect, that multiplier effect, right? Like so the rejection is, it's not that it stops, but it reduces a lot just because you were kind of like surrounded with the right people.
And so I can only imagine that you have used Mappa when hiring for Mappa. So tell me a little bit about your own team building experience and how that's been.
Oh, that's one we are extremely proud of, right? Like just at the beginning of this year, we had the great opportunity of promoting almost half of our team and folks that have been with us for the longest now, and it's our vision, right? Like we are all underdogs. We are all folks that have been overlooked in some degree, and I guess like that makes it even more important that we are the ones building this. And don't get me wrong, like my team rocks. We have freaking PhDs on it's not that the technical aspect doesn't matter. It does. We are a deep tech company. We must know what we are doing, right? Like we are not playing around. We are actually building something that is extremely valuable and that we take extremely seriously. We are also extremely hungry, and we are also extremely related to the problem of not being seen for who we truly are. Just because we don't have the perfect LinkedIn profile, sometimes not having given the opportunities that could take us to that next level. So creating a team of folks that have that hunger and that know that they have a chance to prove to the world that, some of the best technologies can come from from them. It's for me one of the things I'm the most proud of. And I think it's also extremely important. Technology at the end of the day, it's also a representation of the people that build it, right? Like and having people like us building this technology and at the level we are doing, with the quality we are able to get to the market and serving our clients the way we do, it also opens a door for others to come and join and know that there are multiple ways to build technology and there is room to build it for humanity.
You absolutely should be so proud of that. I think the work you guys are doing and the traction you have, I mean, it is phenomenal, and I am rooting for you to the moon and back. To wrap up, I would love to just kind of get your advice to founders out there in general. If you're building an early stage startup, Mappa or no Mappa, if they're going to use the API, but just sort of what do you think people should really be keeping in mind when building from the ground up and building their team?
I think like the first thing is it's knowing it will take longer than you were expecting. I guess like especially with AI, we are so focused on getting there faster, and that's important. But it's a process, and sometimes it takes the time it takes, right? Like, and that goes for relationships as well. Relationships sometimes take the time it takes, and building that relationship with an investor. If you have compatibility, it will happen faster for sure, but it also takes the time it takes, right? So I think building any startup is definitely a resilience process, but it's also a patience process. But then I'd say focused on finding the ones that will elevate your vision, right? Like it's not and again, when I say compatibility, it's not similarity. You don't want folks that will think exactly like you do, but folks that will be compatible enough with the root cause to elevate it, to push you forward and push the company forward just by being themselves. And that's what we optimize for at Mappa, how we can find people that have something to prove, that have been overlooked at some point, that they understand this as personal, as a now lab for them to showcase who they can become. And that same, I'd say, that same shine in the eye, I don't know if that translates to English, it's while we help our clients to get on their own terms and ways, right? Like, so I'd say definitely exercise your patience, make sure you are elevating your vision. And I guess like the third one will be, when you make some money, find a good lawyer.
Wait, why that last one?
Because you're gonna need it. That's the truth. You're gonna need it. Like it's tricky navigating term sheets and deals and the multiple and different stakeholders. And it's not that anybody's there, to get you. Nobody's there to get you, but everybody, it's navigating their own, journeys and interests. And it's important that you give yourself the tool and the resources to navigate at the same level. And I say that because sometimes as founders and especially as female founders, we enter the game, and I will use this word for lack of a better word. We enter the game thinking that, we are not seeing eye to eye with other players in the industry. And I guess like one of the things that helped me gain the confidence and sit with, more strength on the table I created, was giving myself the resources to navigate those relationships and understanding them better. So I think like everyone needs a great lawyer.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. Okay, so to wrap up, I want to ask you a little bit about your experience in Startup Battlefield. So you were our top 20 this past year. What was that like? How did it go for you?
Oh, it was awesome. I think like then, just be at the 200, it was already an amazing experience. And having the booth at the TechCrunch Disrupt conference, there is so much foot traffic in that conference. We spoke with so many people. It was an amazing 3 days experience, but definitely being at the top 20 took it to the next level, having the opportunity to pitch on the main stage and connecting with so many interesting folks. I think like while we got so many things out of that experience, and including a 6-digit pipeline. But I guess like the most, I think, interesting thing we took out of it was the level of exposure that I guess very few, you know, very few media outlets can get you as any startup, right? Like, and TechCrunch is definitely at the top of that chain, and allowed us to get in contact with so many people that resonated with what we are building, and getting the Mappa word to a different level, right? Like, I would definitely advise any, ambitious founder out there to apply, and make sure that, you do a good job at your application as well. So it's hard to get in, at the level of competition. It's amazing. The amount of talented folks we met in that process was extremely humbling. So yeah, do a great job on your application. And if you get the chance to participate, take the best out of it, of the relationships you forge there, but also of the inspiration it gives you, because there is so many smart people in the world, and kind of like seeing them do their own things help you to be better at yours, right?
Yeah, well, we loved having you in Startup Battlefield. We loved having you on Build Mode. So thank you, Sarah, for joining us. And I look forward to following your journey. I'm really, really excited for Mappa and for you. Build Mode is a TechCrunch podcast. Each episode is produced and edited by Maggie Nye and hosted by me, Isabel Johannesson. Our art and design is also by Maggie Nye. A big thanks to Morgan Little, who leads our audience development, the Foundry and Cheddar video teams, and most of all to you, the builders, and everyone else in the wider startup community. We'll see you back here next time.